Alright, so I found this image for a car radio. I thought that'd be kind of cool to try to not duplicate exactly, but emulate. Uh, so I can split screen this. There we go. It'll just help, having the reference up there as we're working. Okay. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm obviously going to modify the design of this thing a bit. I want to have a CD player on here too, but I like the idea of having the buttons in the corners and then having kind of like this rounded area where we have this divot of other buttons in here and then the screen in the middle. Okay, so just like before, we're going to go through and just lay out our shapes. For the buttons in here, I'm actually going to create cylinders instead of circles. Okay, just a different method to do it, and you'll see some of the advantages of doing it this way compared to the circle method. Okay, and again, I can go with straight buttons like this, but I think I'm more apt to go with something that's already on a bit of an angle. Okay, so if I look at the side view again, and I try to match this up with the direction of mine, kind of like that. I think that's pretty good. So 72, let's just say 73, is my angle right there. So anything I rotate, I'm just going to make sure I put it to 73. And my move tool is already set up to be an object, so that as I move this, it's going to move it parallel to the surface. So I'm just going to scoot this guy there. There we go. And that looks good. Let me duplicate him, scoot this guy down. And then just like we did before, I can duplicate these two and then just change their X to a positive. Now this is working because we're modeling this at the axis right here. See a black line? Had I modeled everything way over here, I couldn't do that because I would be basically at like 50 for the positive X, and then the other side would probably be like at 48 or something. So I could not do that. And with these here, I could also scale them down from here if I need to change their size. I think I want to scale them down slightly. I'm just going to nudge these over a little bit more. Let me go to the front view. Front view is not really helping. I think perspective is the best option. There we go. Seeing those, I'm just going to delete those guys. Okay, I don't want to move this one over without moving that one over, because then it would be out of sync. Actually, I'm going to pull this over a little bit more. So I want to have this other button in the middle, right about there. Alright, so now duplicate. Back to positive, good. So now I can duplicate this, pull it down here, scale it up for the big button. Okay, I want to make sure I'm not too close to this edge here, because if I start putting in bevels and whatnot, it's going to cause some issues. I'm going to scale those down slightly, just because I want to have a difference between this one and that one. I think that'll be good. Yeah, okay. So then again, this guy, we'll duplicate him, drop him in the positive. That's cool. This black area is looks like a texture to me, so I'm going to treat that as a texture. This line that's coming around here, this is kind of like a fancy setup right there. I'm going to simplify it just for the assignment. And we said 73 was our angle here. And again, I'm just being careful I don't get these elements too close together, because that can cause issues with some of our stuff. And this guy is actually going to go down more, so I'm going to put the CD player up here. Alright, that's good. Okay, so let me grab these two pieces, do a curve fillet, trim 0.02. Obviously it's too tiny. Let's go to 0.2. That's better. Just grabbing the next two curves at a time and just hitting G to redo that. I'm going to grab all my curves, delete the history, edit curves, attach curves. Make sure you're going to the option box and clicking the correct buttons. Keep originals off. Okay, delete the history, center pivot it, move it out, delete these remnants. There we go. So there's our screen, our knobs. I'm going to duplicate this up here. And you'll see that my pivot is no longer going on that angle, because when I created the attach the curves, it basically creates a new object, so it thinks that this is the correct direction for it. So not a big deal. The only thing I want to do though is I'm going to, if I wanted to scale this down, or not scale it, but grab the points and move it, I can't just grab them and pull them because it creates this like warpy look. So I'm going to go and reset this. Now we rotated in the X direction to 73. I want to basically rotate this perfectly straight up and down. So 90 would be perfectly straight up and down. 73 is where we rotated it, so 90 minus 73 is 17. Okay. And if I want to fix this so that it does go back on that angle, I can say modify and say freeze transformation. And you see that it resets this position and zeroes these things out. Okay, so now I can take this in the front view, it's easier to see, and just shrink this stuff down. Okay, and even more, I need to shrink it down. I have to be careful I don't cross any of the points. If I cross the points, then funny things can happen. And by funny, I don't actually mean funny, I mean terrible things. Okay, so that's as close as I can really get them. I'm going to center pivot and just pull this down a little bit more. Okay, now I'm just going to scale it. Okay, I don't mind if these become a little bit distorted because it's a CD tray. Okay, so it can have a little bit of a different look to it. Okay, so now I'm going to rotate it back. Now I'm not going to rotate it to 73 because it'll go that way. Okay, 73 was our rotation from when it was perfectly flat, but we're standing up straight. So this is going to be negative 17 to get it to lay back down. Okay, so now I have both of these objects here. So I'm just going to go and extrude them. Okay, so it extrudes them, they stick into our interface. Alright, and then we're going to have some sort of button casing here. And the way they did this one is basically these buttons are just kind of like lying right there on top of this. And I don't think we want to really try to attempt that on our first go. It wouldn't be terribly difficult. I think what I want to do is just nudge the points up here. Let me rotate this 17 degrees. And I'm going to freeze transform. And then I'm just going to move these points up. And you can see how the history just keeps going with it. All those, that extrude that I did is going to still move with it. There we go. So let me take this back to negative 17 and stick it in here. Okay, so now I have a spot for where my buttons will go. Okay, so far so good. Alright, so I'm going to take my object here, I'm going to duplicate it, I'm going to pull it down, I'm going to unrotate it. I'm going to grab the control vertices. And basically going to create a little block that will have all the buttons kind of attached to. Go to the side view. Easier to grab them there. I'm just grabbing these. I know I have 2 in the middle, so I'm just making sure that I keep the 2 in the middle. I can move individually, so as long as I grab like that, all these, and move them, or if I grab all this and move them, that's cool. I don't want to grab these and pull these out because these 3 points here, 1, 2, 3, and these 3, 1, 2, 3, are my curve. That's my rounding here, so I don't want to stretch that out. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the front view and grab these 2, and I'm going to push these or scale these out this way. There we go. Alright, and actually I'm looking at this, I want it to be crisper, so I'm going to delete that and just create a new one. So NURBS square, create NURBS square. Pull it up, rotate it 90 so we can see it better. Scale it out to fit. I'll have it fit right under the screen. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to put my fillets on here, and I want the fillets to just be tighter. Instead of 0.2, let's go 0.05. 0.05. That looks good. Let's just see what 0.1 is going to look like. Yeah, I think I like 0.05. Let's just cut the difference. 0.75. That's good. Okay, so we'll do the same thing here. And again, I'm just hitting G to redo that last command. Okay, so now I have these, so I can take this, delete the history, edit curves, attach curves, connect, keep, good, delete the history, move it, delete the extras. Okay, rotate this to -17. For some reason this one is off. That's odd. Alright, I'll just manually rotate it. Something else is going on. Let me look at my outliner and see where this is at. Okay, let me take it out of this group. I'm gonna hit Shift P and just delete that. Any of these like little white ones that we see in here that don't have a plus sign, we can delete those. Okay, so now let me rotate. It's better. So now I can go to 73. Perfect. Right. Get this centered. Good. I'm going to pull this guy up just a little bit. And maybe this one too. Alright, surfaces extrude. And our options are just set to distance still 1. Extrude, there we go. Okay. So now we basically have our placeholders in here of where we want stuff to happen. So now the rest of this is going to be just like we've done down here, just cutting holes and then patching it up and then tweaking it to get it to look the way we want it to look. Alright, so we'll start up with all of these. I'm just going to grab all of, oops, I'm going to grab not all those. I'm going to grab all these little guys and just make sure that these are intersecting. So just push them in until they intersect. Those guys are already intersecting, this is already intersecting. From the back, I can still see everything, so everything is intersecting. Okay, so I'm going to go here, shift click there, and then I'm going to start putting in my fillets. Surface fillet, circular fillet option box. And I'll throw this over there. There we go. Alright, so we hit apply, and it comes in correctly. I'm just going to hit undo and maybe play with this size a little bit. Okay, I went a little bit bigger, 0.05. Maybe I'll go even a little bit bigger and go to 0.1. Okay, you see at 0.1, it's a no-go. You see how it just like stops calculating it. So 0.08. Still not looking good. 6. Good. Okay, so 0.06 is the highest I can go on this guy without moving things around. So now I'm going to go down to the next one, click, shift click this one, apply. Okay, and that one worked. Click, shift click that, apply. I'm clicking these in a specific order that worked the first time. If I did this and then this and hit apply, you see I get my fillet on the other side. Okay, so I'm clicking this, shift clicking that, and hitting apply, and it's coming in on the right side. So as I do all these, I just want to get the settings correct. There we go. And I think on that guy, I may actually do something a little bit different. So these are kind of bumped out. Yeah, we'll do something different on those. So I'm not even going to really worry about the fillet there, because it's basically just going to be placed on the surface. Okay, I do need a fillet here. Let's go to that. And that looks like we're looking in the right direction, yes. I'm going to need a fillet here. Oops, just hit undo and just shrink this down some. There we go. And then I need a fillet here. Good. Okay. So I just found radiuses that look good in mine. That you're going to find different radiuses for yours. So then I'm just going to go through and trim all the surfaces. I'm going to turn shrink surface off. I don't need that on. And keep it still on. Keep originals off. So I want to keep, actually in some of these cases like this, I want to keep this, and I want to keep this screen so that I can just kind of scoot the screen forward. So let me duplicate this first. So I switch to the move tool, duplicate, hit Y to get back to the trim tool, click that because I want to keep it, click this, click that because I want to keep it, enter. Okay, so now I have that surface there, and then I have this surface here. Okay, so that's good. Let's go into each one of these little pieces. And one thing I can do to kind of maybe create less pieces would be the goal of that. Is I'm just going to grab everything and delete the history. I go to my curves, and I'm going to marquee them, drop them on my curves layer. Okay, so I have no curves showing here. So I can actually delete these guys. And what I'm going to be left with is just this little fillet. Okay? But if I go into the fillet and I say isoparm here, here, so I've grabbed this isoparm, shift click that one. I go to edit NURBS, insert isoparms. Let's say I do 3. And then I right click and go to hull. Hull. There we go. I can grab this very back one, and if I look at the side view, you can see this should be at a perfect angle. No, it's not. Pull this out. And there we go. So I can set this to normal. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me this V direction that I could pull in. Nope, not that. Go back to the side view and see. Sometimes you can just play with these and just kind of say, okay, this one, this one, this one, and see which one looks good. Right? Or we can just go back to object and just eyeball this thing because we're really not going to see it. There we go. Okay, so now I basically created this tunnel here and kept this as one solid shape, where the other way we had a shape here, we had a shape there, we had a shape here. So I'm just going to go through these, isoparm, click, shift click. Oops. Make sure I don't have any dashed lines. See how that one's dashed? I don't want that. I want solid yellow lines. Edit NURBS, insert. Right click, hull, click on this end one. go to the side view, go to the side view, and just pull it back. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing on these guys. Now you're thinking, can we just duplicate it? And the answer is no. We don't have anything really to snap to, so there's nothing we could just like snap it and pop it over here. Insert isoparms, and while I'm at it, I'll just do this one. That way I can be a little bit lazy and do them both at the same time. So I go to Hull, and I click on that guy. I come down here, right click and go to Hull, shift click. It might be hard to see. Just zoom in on it, shift click that guy. And then we go to our side view. We can pull these and get them pretty much lined up. Okay, so now we have our openings for the holes there. These guys, like I said, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to, let me do this other stuff first just to kind of clean this area up. On the screen, I'm going to grab the screen and I'm just going to pull it back. So center pivot it, move tool, where's my move tool? Okay, when I'm center pivoting this, it's actually centering the pivot around this entire shape. Remember, if I go to control vertex, it's showing me the control vertices for the entire shape. So I can just move the pivot over here by holding D and scooting it over. Then I can pull this in some, I can scale it up some. There we go. Okay, so now my screen is inset. I'm going to grab this guy and trim him. There we go. I'll grab this one and trim it. This one, trim it. Good. Okay, I could have also done the, inserting isoparms. I just want to give you options for seeing multiple things. Where'd you come from? Okay, so now I have all my holes in here, so the next step in this is just to kind of build some of the other stuff. The screen is basically done. I'm going to put an image on here, obviously. And if I needed to, this is one of the reasons I didn't do the other thing, is I could hold this up some more. Okay, I like a little bit more flush screen, I think. Okay, I'm also going to just create a polygon or a NURBS plane. I'm going to rotate it 73 degrees. I'm going to scale it the length of this. Go to my side view. Shrink it down this way, pull it down this way. There you go. So this is just like little dust collector for the CD tray. There we go. And so you have a tiny little slit right there. Okay, so now let's do these buttons over here. So I'm going to go to what I want to do essentially is I want to create a button that fits perfectly in this hole. So why not grab one of these shapes and use one of those shapes? So if I go to isoparm and click on this back isoparm here, there, I go to edit curves, duplicate the surface curve, delete the history, where are we at? Center pivot it, and pull it out. This guy matches perfectly that diameter. Okay, just needs to rotate 17 degrees and freeze transform, and we're good. Okay, so now I can use this to create the button. So just like before, I'm going to extrude. It's obviously it's a long button, so I could always come down to my length and change this to 0.5, 0.25, something like that. Okay, so this is good. Now what I want to do is create this rounding. Now in this case we don't have a one directional rounding like we did on the other buttons down here. Okay, like on these guys we just went with one direction and rounded them like this way. Okay, same thing on that guy here. In this we basically have like a circular shape that we're rounding it with. So So I'm going to create a NURB sphere. The sphere is selected way down here. There it is. I'm going to shift click this guy. I'm going to go to Modify, Snap Align, Align Objects option box, and I'm going to say midpoints X, Y, Z of the last selected object, or to the last selected object. So now it just pops the sphere right here. So then I can click the sphere, scale it, flatten it. Okay, remember from Pac-Man a year ago, I'm going to change the end sweep to 180 so I just get half of a sphere. And I think you can see where I'm going with this is that I'm going to use this shape as my intersecting object. Okay, so here's the sphere, here's this guy, we grab them both. We go to Edit NURBS, Surface Fillet, Circular Fillet. Let's hit Apply. Okay, we're on the opposite side, and it's wrong obviously, so we'll reverse one of these. And there we go. So that looks like it's in the right spot. I can maybe make it a little bit tinier, so 0.01. That looks good. So then we just trim, Edit NURBS, Trim Tool, trim this, yes, trim this, yes. Okay, so now I have this nice rounded button right here. Okay, and just like before, I could delete this, go to my, come on, isoparms here, insert isoparms. Let me delete my history on this and just see. I think I have two surfaces. I do. I must have created it twice or something. Alright, so I'm going to go to Hull, grab that last hull. It's hard to see, but I have it. And just pull that back. Okay, and now I've just created two surfaces instead of creating three there. Either way is going to work. It's just one's, you know, you have two surfaces, the other one you have one. Alright, so I can take this and group it, delete the history, center pivot it, call this button underscore 01. Rotate it negative 17 degrees, move it into here, move it into there. There we go. So now we have a button right there. Okay. So I'm going to grab that again. So I'm going to go to the outliner. My outliner is dying, so I want to make sure I can. Oh no! I crashed again. Okay, so after rebuilding everything, I'm back. So I'm going to take this button 1, go to the outliner. No crashy this time. Button 01. I'm going to duplicate it, Control D, slide it down, place. Make sure I have the same look to it. It looks like this one needs to come out just a tiny bit. Yeah, that's right. So now I'm going to go back to the outliner and grab both buttons. I don't know where that came from. Grab both buttons and duplicate. Okay, now because of how they were created, I can't just simply go put this as a positive, so I physically have to just move these over. And I can use the front view as my way to help line these up. I think I'm pretty good already. Yeah, perfect. Perfect-ish. Okay, so we got those buttons, save. You may want to save very, very often because obviously I'm having issues with this. Okay. So now we're going to go and create this guy here. And if we look at this, it's basically just like a little straight up and then over, and then we have like a button kind of recessed inside there. So I'm going to go here and create this in two parts. So right click in isoparms. I'm going to say right here, kind of in the middle, and shift drag right about there. And those two areas I'm going to insert isoparms. 3 of them between the selection. Now I'm going to right click and go to Hull, click this, shift click, next one, the next one, and the next one. Come on, that one, and that one. Okay, so I'm going to scale it down, and you see how it gives me that little plateau there. Okay, I'm going to pull it out a little bit. Alright, that looks cool. Alright, now I'm just going to go to Hull. I'm just kind of scale this down and push that in. I'm going to go to the next hull that's out, and I can use my arrow keys. If I use the up and down arrow, I can actually just, like, it's called walking the points or walking the hulls. So we just have something like that, okay? And my other button's just going to kind of sit in the middle of this area. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing for the other one, but I'm just going to duplicate it. So just leave that there. So I'm going to take this isoparm here, that guy. I'm going to edit curve, duplicate surface curves, delete the history, center pivot it, 17-degree rotation, freeze the transforms. I'm going to extrude. Actually, in this case, because I have these little ridges in here, I'm going to create this one a little bit differently. Okay. I'll show you. I can take this and duplicate. Click this, and go to Surfaces Loft, and that creates that surface. And then what I want to do is I want to close it. So if I go to my section spans, and I just put in 6 of these, just to make sure I have enough. I go to Hull, I grab my first hull, and I scale it down as far as it'll go. Okay, so I'm just scaling it in here until these things just stop working. Okay, and I can even grab the green individually. And it might take, I'm bringing it right to that blue. It might take a little while, but there it is. Okay, now I'll do the red. There we go. Then I'm going to grab the next hull out, scale it down a little bit, and then I'm going to pull it out even with the other one. Okay, so even with this guy. So I'm going to hold down V, click, and drag. Now it's even. I'm going to grab the next one and pull it out. Okay, I don't want to go past the other one. I don't need to get it right into it. Okay, there we go. Okay. So in this instance right here, what I've done is just created a button, just out of one solid cylinder. I'm going to hide these curves. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is insert a bunch of isoparms in here. Okay, so I'm going to try to go under Edit NURBS and say Rebuild Curve, or Surface. And if I go to my attribute editor, I can see that in the U direction, which is one way, I have 8 of these. In the other direction, I have 6. Okay, so in the V direction, I want to rebuild it. In the 8 direction, I don't. So I'm going to say number of spans in U, keep it at 8. Number of spans in V, let's go to 32. Okay, it's a multiple of 6. Actually, it isn't. 36. Multiple of 6. Okay, so rebuild. And it actually built it in the wrong direction. Let's go back. Rebuild surface. So maybe I have my numbers mixed up. Let's go to 32 here and 6 there. There we go. That's what we want, is them to go around like this. Okay. So now what I can do is just grab the vertices. Now if we look at the picture, there's like a little area right here where the top is perfectly smooth, and then we have a little bit of a dip right afterwards. Okay. So I'm just going to go to the hull, and I'm just going to kind of adjust. It wants to be deleted history, and it wants to be saved again. There we go. Now I can move it. I'm just pulling these up just to isolate where this dip is going to happen. So let's say about there. Okay. Now, I have some lines in here that are for the dip. Like these two is where I'm going to put the dip. And then these two here and these two here are going to stop it. So I'm just going to do one just so you can see it, then we'll do the rest. So as I pull this in, you can see how we have a nice little dip there. Okay. I'm thinking maybe I want more divisions. Let's go to rebuild surface. Let's go take this up to 64. There we go. And delete the history. We're good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is grab these 2 points here. And I have to be careful I don't grab the ones in the back. So it may be easier to select them just by shift clicking. And my shift wasn't working a second ago because I wasn't clicking on it. I'm just going to keep going around this entire thing, just grabbing every other 2 points. And what this is going to do is it's just going to create a little bit of a dip right there, just like, you know, finger holders. And it's obviously just a slight detail, but it really adds a lot to our object. Okay, so I have every other pair selected. Now I'm just going to go into wireframe and just verify that I don't have anything else selected, because obviously I wouldn't want to have to do that again. Okay, so now I can't move them in because I moved these here. Hey, that looks good, but then this side they're bumped out the other way, right? So I just go to the scale tool and I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to hold down Control, drag on the blue, and just pull this in. And now you'll see, if I go back to object mode, that we have these little ribs in there. Okay. Now to get this to look a little bit nicer, I'm just going to go to hull and grab this hull and just pull it up. And what that's doing is it's kind of like blocking in where I want that to be. I can grab this hull and pull that back as well. Now I just have a nice little rib area here. I think I want to grab the next hull also. This guy here. Looks like the lines are just, they're still pushing back a little bit further than I want. So I'm just going to pull this line closer to that line. And now I've just isolated that ribbing right to that area. And then maybe I'll grab this one and just scale that down slightly. Okay, so I think that should be good. Yeah, I like the way that looks. Looks like a knob. Alright, so now I'm going to save, because obviously I don't want to have to redo that again. And then center pivot, rotate this guy negative 17 degrees, push it here, push it there. Make sure I'm kind of even. There we go, so that looks good. Maybe a little out too far. Let's push it in a little bit. There we go. That works. So I just take it, rename this knob 01, duplicate, scoot it over. Oops. I just duplicate that, right? Duplicate this whole setup. Scoot that over. And then I'm just going to use this other thing as a placeholder for where this should be. Just checking the sides. I should have equal poke through on both sides. Or just about. Okay, so I can delete that. There we go. So now I just have to do these buttons here, and then the radio part will be done. So let's save. And I'm going to create the radio buttons, and they're basically going to be, if we look at this one, it's basically like a lineup of buttons here. Okay. So I'm going to do basically a lineup of buttons there. I'm going to go to create NURBS. Actually, no, I'll just use this one. I want to get this exact shape, so I'm going to use the isoparm here and go to Edit Curves Duplicate, Center Pivot, delete the history, pull it out. And it is on a little bit of a bow, so I want to make sure I kind of capture that bowing. Let me rotate this 17 degrees and go on the top view so you can see that this does kind of bow a little bit because we bowed our original shape. So I'm going to go to extrude. There's that. Now if we look at this, you know, how are we going to create buttons out of this? We want to create individual buttons. So what I want to do is that instead of using this surface, what I'm going to do is take this curve here and break up the curve into where I want those buttons to be. So I'm going to go into my front view, and I'm going to go create EP curve tool. I'm just going to click one point here, hold down shift, click the other point below it. So I have a point that's going to intersect it. Then I'm just going to center pivot, and then this, let me grab these two objects and isolate select. The green box, remember? This is going to be where my buttons are going to be, how big they're going to be. So let's say I have, let's say 6 buttons. So if I have 6 buttons, I'm going to have one line right in the middle. Okay? So I just use X and click this arrow, and I can snap it right to the middle. Then I'm going to duplicate it and scoot it over. That one's still there. If yours doesn't show up under your isolate select, make sure you have auto load selected object or auto load new objects selected. Okay, and auto load selected objects. I'm actually surprised that it did show up in here too with the other one. Sometimes when you duplicate, it doesn't show up. Alright, so I'm going to duplicate again, scoot that over. Okay, so I basically have 3 curves right here. I'm going to duplicate it and create one more about here. Then what I'm going to do is grab all of these curves, go to Modify, Snap Align, Align Objects option box. I'm going to say Distribute. This is the distribute just like in Illustrator or InDesign. Distribute in the X direction because that's the direction we're going in here. Align, and now these are all aligned. Okay, so I can delete this guy because I don't need him. I'm going to grab these two and duplicate and pull them over. Okay, I'm going to do the same little trick on this side. Modify, Snap Align, Align Objects, Distribute in the X, Align, there we go. Delete that guy. Okay, so now what I need to do is that's where the button is going to cut off, but I want to have a little bit of a gap between these two. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate these two guys here and scoot it over. And if I go to freeze transform on these, you can see when I scoot this over, I'm moving it over like 0.01. That should be a good amount. Okay, I'm going to grab these guys, freeze transform, duplicate, and scoot them over -0.01. I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to duplicate him. Now I can't duplicate him this way or that way, so what I need to do is I'm going to push him this way a little bit. Oops. I did not freeze transform. Okay. I'm going to duplicate this one 0.005, and I'm going to grab the original, freeze the transform, move this one -0.005. Okay, so that just gives me basically a nice balance of things. Now if it's off 0.01, who's going to notice, right? But we want to get these things as nice as we can. So now I'm going to take all the curves that I have selected here. I'm going to go to Edit Curves, and I'm going to say Cut Curve option box. And then inside here, I'm going to specify cut, and this is going to cut my curves. And you see that it disappeared. Well, it didn't really disappear. It's because the isolate select is turned on. I click that off, and then in here I have all of these. Now you see they weren't actually touching, but it did still cut them. Okay, and that's what we want to happen. Alright, so now these guys are cut as well. Now I could move these into here, but it's going to be quicker just to kind of redraw these after I clean up this other curve. So I'm just going to grab all of these. I'm going to hit isolate select again. And you can see that if I go to the front view, that's isolated, this is isolated, this is isolated, 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 isolated. Okay, and then all the in-betweens are not. So I'm just going to shift drag all of these guys I'm going to hold down Shift and marquee all of these, and then delete. So what I should be left with is curves with a bunch of gaps in them. So this one, there's a gap. These two, there's gaps. Okay. So then I can go to my EP curve tool. I'm going to hold down C and drag along the curve. Okay. Now it's not going to show up in here because we're on Isolate Select. So let me go to Show, Isolate Select, Auto Load New Objects, Auto Load Selected Objects. Oops. I don't want auto load selected objects. Let me unisolate select that. There we go. I just want auto load new objects on here. Okay. So back to my EP curve tool, hold down C and drag. Hold down C and drag. Hit enter. Auto load new objects. It's a new object. I shouldn't have had to add it. Alright, I'll just do this in my unisolate select mode. Okay. So what I did was I just connected this together. So I have this and this are now connected. So I'm going to go back to my curve tool, hold down C, drag there, hold down C, drag there. Scoot down to the next section. I'm going to hit Y to complete the last curve and make a new one. Went too far. Hold down C, drag, hold down C, drag, hit Y. Hold down C, drag, hold down C, drag. Hit Y, hold down C, drag, hold down C, drag. Hit Y, hold down C, drag, hold down C, drag, hit Y. Okay, obviously we're in the monotone section, but that's what's going to happen. So we're doing the same thing over and over again. After you're done with this assignment, you'll be a master of utilizing some of these tools. There we go. So now we're done, so I'm just going to hit enter and get out of that. Okay, so now let me grab all of these. And you see that we have little lines between them, which is what we want. I'm going to put bevels on all of these, or fillets. So edit curves, curve fillet. Now you'll see in this case we have two here and two here. I may have to split this right here so that I can create separate fillets and then attach them. We'll see. So I think it's going to be really low, like 0.005. And I'm going to look at, let me go to the front view. Nothing there. Nothing there. Okay. Type 0.1 and nothing happened. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this one in half. EP curve tool here, there. Doesn't even have to be accurate. Edit curves, cut curve. I'm just going to delete these pieces, and now I can say, okay, these two I want to put a fillet on. Alright. Alright, it doesn't like it for some reason. Let me check. Alright, it's all touching. It's all friendly. Alright, if this is the case and it's not liking it, we can do something else. Sometimes it just doesn't like the math. I can go to Attach Curves, use Blend, and say Insert Knot. And you see how it rounds off that corner, basically attaching it and giving me a little fillet. Okay, and then I can blend this or change my insert parameters. So let's just hit apply. And then if I come over here to attach and I play with this blend bias, in this case it's not doing anything. Let me play with the parameter. There we go. So I can tweak this until I get something that looks good. I think something like maybe 0.2 is probably a good value. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this, grab that, change my parameter to 0.2, attach. Okay, grab these two. I'm semi-confident that the fillet will work on here. Nope, I was totally wrong. And it could just be because we're bowing, so that's not a big deal. I'm just going to attach. All right, I think that's probably too big. 0.1. Yeah, 0.1 looks good there. And you see how it flipped it here because it didn't like that. So I'm going to just attach it, go to this attach curve, and take one of these reverses to on. Now you'll see here, again, we're at this kind of weird area where we have a rounding, 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 and then this final one is not. So in this one too, all of these now, I'm going to have to go through and just cut them straight across. And this is just the game we play. You know, if one tool doesn't do what we want, we switch to another tool to get that to do what we want. So EP curve, right down the middle-ish. And I'm just going to grab, oops, all of these things, and that guy. Okay, so I have all those new curves created, plus I have this, and I'm just going to go to Edit Curves, Cut Curve again, and I'm just going to delete all the pieces of this curve. Okay, so now when I come here, I can say this and this one, do a attach curve, blend 0.1, good, and I can say this one and that one, do an attach curve, and then these two, just do a connect. Okay, and now I have that shape. So I can do the same thing here. So I grab these two, make sure it's on blend. Make sure these are on blend. I'll do this piece separate. And then these two connect. And I just keep doing the same process for all these buttons. So we treat the bottom piece as one piece, the top piece as another. And then we take these two pieces and put them together. Blend. Oops, this one actually broke into several pieces, so I'm just going to connect these two together. And I'll blend these two. And we'll connect these two. Okay, and if it does that, no big deal. Just go to the attach curve here, the top one, and put one of those reverses on. And these two connect, apply. And there's a little piece right here. Apply. There we go. So now I have all of these. Delete the history, center pivot them. And extrude. Okay. Now, this is sometimes you'll get this where it extrudes and some go one way, some go another way. It's not a big deal. We could go several ways to do this. I'm going to go to Surface Extrude option box and just say that I want this to go specify the direction, and this is going to go in the Z direction. Okay. Now it went outward instead of inward. No big deal again. Extrude. Just make this -1. There we go. So now we have our buttons. So now our next step in this is to create the face of what the buttons are going to be. And I'm just going to go into my CB curve tool, or my EP curve tool, and I'm just going to click a point here, shift click a point there, hit enter. We can't see it because I'm in shaded mode, and it's all the way down there. So I'm just going to pull this up, go into my top view so I can see it, pull it back, and I'm just going to arch this like the other one. So I'm just going to pull this like that. Okay, so now this new curve is basically at the same kind of angle as the other stuff. So I'm going to extrude it, make sure I go back to the options and do profile normal, or specify that I want to go in the Y direction. There we go. And then this guy is going to be intersecting with all of these. So I'm going to edit NURBS, surface fillet, circular fillet. Let's set this up I clicked this first, then that. Apply. Okay, that's backwards, so turn the reverses off. That's backwards, turn that off. Good. Let's save before I crash. Okay, it's a little big, so now let's take this down to 0.01. Okay, that works. Okay, this, then that. Apply. In this case, it's backwards. And if you look, I'm actually getting maybe a little bit too close to that, but that's not going to matter because I'm on. Never mind. So let's hit undo. Let's reverse one of these. And remember when I extruded originally, one was going one way, one was going the other way. That's why we're getting it backwards. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, and that one obviously did not work. We'll come back to that one. Let's go to this one and that one. That one worked. This one and that one. That one worked much quicker. Now I'm going to turn the reverse off on this one because I have a feeling that it's going to be, yeah. It's going to be like that. Okay. Now if we look at this from our top view, I have basically these three buttons here are the mirror image of these three buttons. So the one that didn't work, this guy, realistically I don't care because I can just make these three buttons and then duplicate them and flip them over, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, so let's go to the trim tool and we'll say we want to keep this, this. Oops, that one didn't do it. Let me make sure that I did that one. Oh, nope, look at that. The fillet didn't work here. It's a little bit too big. So let's go 0.005, 0.005. That's why that one went so quick. It didn't work. Okay, so now let's go back to our trim tool. And now that's going to work. Okay, now obviously that fillet is smaller, so I have to, before I go back, I'm going to go to my other fillets and just reset theirs to 0.005. So I don't want to have some that are 0.01 and some that are 0.005. That would look weird. That one's already set. Now just for fun, let me see if that one that didn't work. If I went in here and I set my fillet to 0.05, it may still freak out. Oh, it worked. Okay, so that worked. So now I don't even have to mirror it. Okay, so let's go back to the trim tool. Okay, now I know that it's working this time because I have little grids inside each one of these. So keep this, keep this, keep this, keep this, keep this, keep this. Something funky happening there. I don't know what that is. We'll find out. Enter. There we go. And only kept one of them. Let's go back. I want to keep this, keep this, keep this, keep this. Okay, I'm going to ignore these other ones. Let's just move. I'm going to middle drag this one to here and hit enter. Something about that one I didn't like, which is funny because it worked before and now it doesn't, so whatever. Alright, so we're good there. Let's go and grab these guys. Trim tool, trim tool, trim tool. Let's delete the history on these. Let me go through and isolate this so I can just delete all that stuff. These curves here, the curves on our curve layer. If we get in close, you can see that yes, we do have some issues. but we should be able to correct those with our tessellation. Okay. Alright, so in here we're going to take this and I'm going to group it. I'm going to move its pivot to there, so I hold down D, V, and I just move the pivot here. Sorry, not DV, DC, and I middle drag over here to snap my pivot. And if I go in the front view, I can see that the pivot should be right on that black line. So I'm going to hold down DX and just move it in the red direction. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate. -1 and X. Good. So there's our object. Let's unisolate. Let's group these. Call this radio buttons. Center pivot it. Slide her in. And then -17 on our rotate. Somewhere around there. There we go. And then save again. Save, save, save. Alright, so there's our radio face, and it looks, you know, like more science-y than a typical high-end radio face would look, but it's cool for what we're doing. Okay, now we only have a couple parts left. We have the AC area, we have the storage area here, which I may just eliminate the storage area just for lack of time. And then we have our stick shift. Okay, so we may just put the stick shift in, do the AC, and then call it a day. All right, we'll see how much time we have. If we have more time, we'll add that compartment. All right.